Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, hotel heir Rick Hilton, hedge fund billionaire Glenn Dubin. We have heard names, but we rarely hear the specific details of the encounters. On page 42 of the Unsealed court files, Virginia Roberts describes a mechanism of control that went far beyond the island. It wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Today we are letting her voice lead. No speculations, no edits. Just her words, as intended in her censored memoir, The Billionaire's Playboy Club, What They Fought to Keep Hidden. Previously, we have discussed the empire, its reach, and its control. Today's analysis of Virginia Roberts' words does not come from the newly released and censored book, Nobody's Girl. Today, we grant Virginia Roberts her final wish. The original words of her memoir will be heard, the secrets that killed her released. The lessons become even more personal. In the next few chapters, we examine the subtle ways influence and authority can shape a life. Let's get behind the Epstein files and the names they fought to keep hidden. Welcome back to the Unredacted Truth, where we fill in the missing gaps in the world's largest scandals and mysteries. In a world of rumors and theories, my job is simple: uncovering the truth underneath the glitter and the grime. We are exposing a pattern: protection, power, predators. Structures built not on justice, but on silence, fear, and impunity. We're not talking theory, we're talking court records, stamps, dates, testimony, and a system that, to this day, continues to fail the public and protect the predators among us. Let's get to it. Before we proceed, I must establish a critical and non-negotiable legal and ethical framework. These are excerpts from Virginia Roberts Giuffre's memoir, filed as part of court documents. Therefore, everything we discuss regarding third parties are allegations from her personal account, which reflect her experience of abuse and the people she encountered. All individuals mentioned herein are presumed innocent and have denied these claims. In every era, power wears the same disguise: wealth, respectability, charm. But behind the world's most exclusive doors, that same power can become a weapon. Tonight, we revisit testimony that shook the foundations of privilege, the words of Virginia Roberts, whose story forced the world to confront what happens when billionaires, royalty, and social elites play by no one's rules but their own. This is The Billionaire's Playboys Club by Virginia Roberts, a tale of power, control, and the cost of silence. It began at a private airstrip in New Jersey. The driver, Jojo, because as Virginia wrote, Giuffre liked to shorten the names of his multicultural staff into American names. Then Manhattan, a mansion once a boys' school, gifted by Les Wexner to Jeffrey Epstein. Inside, 8 floors of marble and power. There were photos of presidents, royals, even the Dalai Lama. But the religion in that house wasn't faith, it was money. When Virginia entered Epstein's orbit, she wasn't walking into a simple household. She was entering a hierarchy, a system built to condition obedience. The marble halls, the libraries, the exotic art, all of it was theater. Every detail whispered, "You're lucky to be here." That illusion was the first step in control. Psychologists call it glamour-based grooming, the tactic of replacing boundaries with fascination. Epstein and Maxwell didn't just exploit desire, they weaponized admiration.
I was at my apartment when I received a phone call from Giuffre. One thought it was the usual call to come over to his house, but he surprised me. Instead, I would be going to the exclusive hotel in Palm Beach tonight, the Breakers, where I would be meeting my first ever clients. Only told their first names, I was given some instructions and the address where to meet Glenn and Eva. They were a married couple with one on the way. I was quite concerned when I heard she was pregnant, being I really didn't know the body that well and didn't want to inflict any wrongdoing on the unborn baby, but Giuffre insisted I take this job, just massage her gently where she wants to be rubbed, and to save all of my energy for Glenn's massage since it was going to be a 4-hour job.
Virginia's narrative makes crucial distinctions between her encounters, illustrating how the abuse network operated on different levels of transaction and exploitation. First, she recounts being introduced to a couple, Glenn and Eva Dubin, a former associate who had allegedly married a wealthy colleague. At an exclusive hotel residence, Eva, who was pregnant, allegedly only requested a soft massage to help her relax. However, according to her account, the encounter with Glenn escalated to sexual service, a traumatic event that occurred while the couple's children and pregnant wife allegedly slept nearby. The transactional nature of the abuse often blurred lines between high-profile social events and sexual exploitation. Billionaire couple Eva and Glenn Dubin had a long-standing controversial relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Both moved in the same philanthropic and social circles as Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Virginia's civil filings list the Dubins among Epstein's longtime friends and frequent social companions. She alleged that Epstein spoke of them with familiarity and that she was once directed to meet them while working within his network. Eva Dubin dated Epstein in the 1980s before marrying hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin in 1994. They remained friendly with Epstein even after his 2008 conviction, and he was the godfather to their children. Glenn Dubin's connection was highlighted when unsealed court records from a civil suit against Maxwell included an allegation by a victim, Virginia Roberts, that Maxwell directed her to have sex with him. While Eva Dubin provided testimony for the defense, Glenn Dubin was named in a civil suit allegation they strongly deny. Their long ties to Epstein placed them both in the complex legal and social orbit of the Ghislaine Maxwell prosecution. The network didn't just include financiers, it reached into Hollywood. In a surreal twist, Virginia details a flight to Los Angeles where she sat across from the man who defined American childhood comedy, Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons. According to the memoir, the power dynamic shifted from fan to servant in an instant. Virginia alleges Epstein insisted she give Matt Groening a foot massage. Virginia describes the condition of his feet as challenging but complied after cleaning them. In return, Groening allegedly drew her signed sketches of her two.
Shortly after, we were driven to the private airstrip and took off for Los Angeles. On the plane was an unexpected visitor. Matt Groening, the producer of The Simpsons TV show, was catching a ride with us. I was so excited as I loved watching his show and acted like a starstruck fan, asking him everything from his initial idea for creating the show to where he got his characters from. He told me it was all based on his own family makeup, but without the crazy father and son scenes of Homer's hand around Bart's throat. I was enjoying our conversation when Jeffrey insisted that I give Matt a foot massage throughout the duration of the short flight. I never turned down a client, but when I saw the shape of his feet, I nearly threw up at the thought of having to touch them. He had yellow, crusty toenails that even someone with a chainsaw would have had troubles cutting through, and then there was the fluffy balls of leftover pieces of sock wedged between the crevices of his sweaty toes. Now that was the real icing on the cake for me. No way could I attempt this, I thought. Then I had an idea. I went to the back of the plane and rinsed a washcloth in warm soapy water and returned for his dreaded foot massage, but not before attempting to clean them first. In return for my services, Matt was kind enough to draw me 2 quick sketches on blank paper from his briefcase of my 2 favorite characters, Homer and Bart. I asked if he would make them out to my little brother and dad, the true fans of the family, not missing an episode during dinner over the past 10 years or so.
What further confuses Virginia is that not all experiences with men in Epstein's network had the same ending. As in her encounter with a former Harvard professor named Stephen, Virginia describes going to the island to meet him with instructions to keep him happy like I had my first client. She recounts doing activities with him and offering him a massage. In this specific instance, she recounts being relieved when he allegedly chose to watch movies instead of asking for sexual service, though the expectation of sexual service was allegedly a clear part of her role. The transactional nature of the abuse often blurred lines between high-profile social events and sexual exploitation. Virginia recounts being loaned out for a massage to hotelier Rick Hilton at an event, specifically at a Naomi Campbell birthday party in Saint-Tropez. We note here that Naomi Campbell's name is used in the memoir merely to establish the social context and location of the event. She is not the subject of any direct allegation in this account. Virginia was allegedly instructed to perform a service for Hilton before reporting back to her abuser.
I was so excited. We were going to France for a close friend of Jeffrey and Ghislaine's birthday party, famed supermodel Naomi Campbell. I was so overjoyed with excitement. What girl my age with a background like mine was attending socialite parties and globe-trotting the world? It only made it harder for me to see beyond the elusive walls I had put up to protect myself from the appalling truth. Every so often, he'd introduce me to someone new, pulling me aside to show off his eager young masseuse to his fellow pedos. These people had so much money pouring out of them. I don't know why he even thought they'd care in the first place. It made me feel good, though. At least, I knew I made him proud to have me in his company. We had a guest in the car, and apparently we had already been introduced, but I couldn't even remember his name in the first 5 minutes of our meeting again. He was the hotel owner of some large chain in America called Hilton. Staying at one of the cottages near Giuffre, he saw it quaint to loan me out for a night's massage to ruin an almost perfect evening. Giuffre told me to come back to his room after I was finished with Rick. Thankfully, he reminded me of his name, but also odd, I thought, being so late. I would have never imagined Giuffre could stay up this late. But I never made a fuss out of his requests. I gave him affirmation of my understood instructions and headed off with the stranger into the darkness. Making quaint conversation with him was pointless, as I was trying to send his thoughts elsewhere other than the apparent perverted schemes replaying in his mind from the heavy breathing he was making and the looks he was giving to me. I was using all of the tricks in the turn-off book, even asking him about his wife and kids. Unquestionably, he was in seventh heaven, turning every one of my distractions into another flattering compliment. He was saying things like, "I love what you do to me. I have never felt like this before. Come stay with me and I will pay you double. No, triple whatever Giuffre pays you." Knowing he was just a drunk idiot, I wasn't being lured in. After all of the champagne I had drunk that night, it gave me the nerve that I needed to know exactly how to handle perverts like this one, who had been no different from every other schmuck in my life, and I quickly shut him up, lasting no longer than 2 terrible minutes. It had only been shy of a half an hour before I was already getting quickly dressed and hurrying out his cottage door. When I got to Giuffre's cottage, I rushed through the door and told Giuffre and Ghislaine, who were sitting in front of the fireplace reading a book, that I never ever wanted to see that guy ever again.
She was 15. Virginia wrote of other alleged encounters. Some acted as gatekeepers, others as recruiters, but all part of a machine that thrived on silence. We will continue to investigate and list these names, so if you haven't yet, hit that like button and subscribe.
I spent my sweet 16th birthday on his island in the Caribbean, next to St. James Isle, he liked to call it Little St. Jeff's. His ego was as enormous as his appetite for fornicating. I was given a birthday cake and a new collection of designer makeup from London. Ghislaine made a joke after I blew out my array of candles and said Lid be soon getting too old for Giuffre's taste, and soon they'd have to trade me in. She was only half joking in a sad reality, though.
In the suppressed memoir, as filed in court, Virginia describes how the massage became the gateway ritual, a controlled environment that blurred service, consent, and coercion. Each session reinforced dependency. It was a slow conditioning process, for through recruitment, she would be rewarded. Virginia recounts how Epstein said she could make double the money if she found other girls. He explained exactly what kind of girls he wanted. No tattoos, no piercings, the girl next door. Jeffrey Epstein spoke like a man ordering inventory. She wrote,
"If I wasn't so naive at the time, I would have seen that's exactly what he was doing with me. My prospects were massage credentials, but with too much pain from my past, I could only have hope. Not that I was a shy girl, but picking up girls for one reason alone, only to be endorsed for her body, didn't sound like something I could do. But not wanting to displease my master, I told him that I would give it a go."
What unsettles Virginia most in the next passage isn't only what he asks her to do, it's who is asking. Jeffrey Epstein sold himself as a genius investor, a visionary who moved in circles of intellect and innovation. Hearing a man of supposed brilliance speak with such small-minded contempt was disorienting. He could calculate markets, quote philosophers, fund research, yet speak of human beings as categories, as decor. That contradiction fractured the illusion. If someone so brilliant could think so crudely, then the system that celebrated him had to be built on the same ignorance. Her mind tried to hold both ideas at once, gratitude for opportunity and revulsion at its cost, Virginia writes.
He wasn't into multicultural girls, a very chauvinistic perception. He said they had to be uniquely gorgeous to be accepted by him, but definitely no African American girls. He was racist against anything different to his kind. a very narrow-minded way of thinking for such a supposed brilliant man. The list went on and on. No girls with tattoos or piercings or gothics, no drug users or prostitutes. Basically, he wanted everyone's daughter that looked like the girl next door, with blue eyes and blonde curly ringlets. I just nodded and smiled, wanting this to be over with and move on to another conversation. The battles in my head were beginning to cause me too much anxiety. When we got back to Palm Beach, I asked my mom to make me a doctor's appointment for some headaches I had been getting lately, so she wouldn't question me. I walked out of the doctor's with a prescription for a mind-altering anxiety tablet called Xanax. Not only did it help with anxiety, but it also acted as a blanket over terrible memories. So when I had to perform degrading acts, I would take a few pills and forget.
That's moral dissonance in its purest form, when survival instincts override conscience. The stress doesn't just live in the mind, it settles into the body. Headaches, sleeplessness, nausea, the physical fallout of cognitive captivity. And Virginia, looking for a way to mute the noise inside her head, turned to what she had been taught before. By her first capture, Ronald R. Eppinger. The Unredacted Truth, episodes 1 and 2 recount the harrowing time Virginia spent with Ronald R. Eppinger. Sensing Virginia's hesitance and inexperience, Giuffre thought it smart to introduce her to someone who would help her gain the confidence she needed to recruit others on his behalf. Now we hear Virginia recount her first introduction to Sarah Kellen, formerly Kensington.
A few days after my birthday, a girl was flying out to the island to join us for a few days before flying back to NYC. I was introduced to a pretty girl a few years my senior named Sarah. She had long ash blonde hair and big brown eyes that hinted she had a cheeky nature. She had known Giuffre before I had, and he was supposedly trying to help her get an acting job in LA. She was obviously accustomed to the lifestyle he provided her, making it ever so apparent with her prompt attention she lavished on him. She would do things like strip nude and bathe around the swimming pool, taunting him for sex. She was good at what she did, even putting me at ease with her cool persona and funny jokes. Giuffre told me privately that she was one of his best at procuring young girls into her entrapment and delivering them to him when he was in town. And when it came to time in the private chambers with Giuffre,
Recruitment, grooming, entrapment, 3 phases that mirror every trafficking network, only here the setting was penthouses and private jets. The manipulation wasn't done with chains, it was done with status and cash. Every interaction and experience Virginia had with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell was designed to further instill and show her his power and dominance over those around him, meticulously blurring the lines between his world and reality. And when she insists on getting what she was promised, training to be a credentialed massage therapist, his manipulation of the situation continues.
within a couple of weeks of my persistence, Giuffre introduced me to a couple of real working massage therapists, not only with credentials, but with their own clientele too. I was in awe of their teachings. It all made so much sense about the body and what they were saying. I felt like I had picked myself up out of the lurches and had a direction again. I was in the middle of another training session with Giuffre, the recipient, as usual, when I was shocked to hear Giuffre ask one of the therapists to now remove her shirt. He had no shame, I thought. Even though she was above his usual age criteria, she was still a pretty woman in her early 30s with curly blonde hair and had an athletic body for a mother of 2 children. She didn't hesitate in his request. I couldn't believe it. At first, it was such a state of shock, and I began to question to myself if this was normal in the massage profession to expect his kind of clientele to request such degrading tasks, even though they were professionals.
Virginia's story shows us how trafficking at this level doesn't need back alleys or violence. It uses trust, wealth, and access as its weapons. Each participant plays a role: facilitator, recruiter, enabler, and as long as the money keeps flowing, morality is replaced by loyalty. Furthermore, abusers often justify exploitation as philosophy. Epstein masked predation as liberation. His manipulation sustained itself by rewriting the ethics of Virginia and many others with vulnerable minds, ages, and situations, all to excuse and feed his appetite. By the time Virginia escaped, she was both survivor and witness. Her story, once dismissed as fantasy, became evidence of how trafficking can hide in plain sight, beneath philanthropy, under charity galas, within private clubs. That's the paradox. Power isolates its victims, but exposure isolates the powerful. When sunlight hit those gilded walls, even billionaires began to run from their own shadows. The Epstein case isn't just about one man, it's a map showing how systems of privilege protect each other and how silence becomes currency. Control isn't just physical, it's architectural. Epstein's properties were designed for surveillance, symbols of omnipresence. Victims rarely fight what they believe can see them everywhere. When a victim's pain threatens exposure, systems of power close ranks. The goal isn't healing, it's damage control, and that's what separates ordinary cruelty from institutional abuse.
Please help me continue to do what is right instead of playing the political game. Let the truth out and give the victims their voices back. The easiest way to support this mission is simple: like, share, and subscribe.
If you or someone you know needs help, the numbers for the US, Canada, UK, and Australia are on your screen right now. These services provide confidential support and advice 24/7. Let me know what you think about these new revelations, or if you have any other topics or suspects you'd like me to cover next in the comments below. I am Sonia, and this is the Unredacted Truth.